Standing in my wedding dress, staring at my reflection, I felt a mix of happiness and nervous anticipation. After 28 years of living in my sister Sophia's shadow, today would be different. While she had always been the golden child who received everything on a silver platter, I had learned to fight for every scrap of attention. Today was my wedding day, but more importantly, it was the day I would finally do something I had never dared to do before. Before I tell you this story, let me know where you are watching from. Please hit that like button and subscribe to support my channel. Now let me take you back to those painful years that led me to this moment of reckoning. Growing up in our middle-class Texas home, the differences in how my parents treated Sophia and me were impossible to ignore. When I was 6 and Sophia was 4, her birthday parties were elaborate affairs held at the local park, with hired clowns, 3-tier cakes, and dozens of presents. She would sit like a little princess while everyone celebrated her existence. My birthdays, on the other hand, consisted of a store-bought cake and a quiet family dinner. No fanfare, no special decorations, just another ordinary day that happened to mark my birth. The academic achievements that I worked so hard for barely registered on my parents' radar. I remember rushing home from school with an A+ on my math test, bursting through the front door with excitement. My mother glanced at the paper and said, "That's nice, dear," before immediately turning her attention to Sophia, praising her for coloring inside the lines of her cartoon princess book. The contrast was stark and painful, even to my young mind. Christmas mornings were perhaps the most obvious displays of favoritism. Sophia would wake up to find a brand new bicycle with pink streamers, an entire Barbie doll collection, and beautiful dresses that made her look like a little angel. My pile was significantly smaller, containing practical items like school supplies, pencils, and educational books. When I asked why Sophia always got more presents, my parents would explain that she was younger and needed more attention. This became their standard excuse for everything. The pattern continued throughout my elementary years. I learned to complete my homework alone from 3rd grade onward, while my mother sat beside Sophia helping her with every single assignment. When I needed money for school supplies, I had to present a detailed case and wait for approval. When Sophia wanted something, it appeared in her hands as if by magic. During parent-teacher conferences, my achievements were discussed in passing while Sophia's progress dominated the conversation. My teachers would praise my academic performance, my helpful nature, and my leadership qualities, but my parents seemed more interested in hearing about Sophia's artistic abilities and social development. I began to understand that no matter what I accomplished, it would never be enough to earn the attention that Sophia received simply by existing. The most painful moment came when I was 14 and had just been accepted into the honor roll program at school. This was a significant achievement that required maintaining excellent grades across all subjects. I ran home with the acceptance letter, my heart racing with excitement. I found my parents in the living room comforting Sophia, who was crying because she had failed her piano recital earlier that day. My mother was stroking her hair, telling her, "You are so talented, sweetheart. One bad performance does not define you. Next time will be better." When I tried to share my honor roll news, my father barely looked up from consoling Sophia. He said, "That's good, Maxine. Now go help your sister with her piano practice." At that moment, something shifted inside me. I realized that I was not just the older sister. I was the invisible child whose accomplishments would always be overshadowed by Sophia's needs and desires. High school brought even more blatant examples of the unequal treatment that had become our family's norm. When I was 16, I received a full scholarship offer to a prestigious university. This was the result of years of hard work, excellent grades, and extensive extracurricular activities. I had spent countless hours studying, participating in debate team, volunteering at local charities, and maintaining perfect attendance. The scholarship was worth over $60,000 and would cover my entire education. I presented the scholarship letter to my parents during dinner, expecting some level of celebration or acknowledgement. They glanced at the paperwork and said, "That's wonderful, honey," before immediately shifting the conversation to Sophia's need for additional music lessons. She wanted to attend an expensive summer music camp that cost $5,000. Within minutes, they were discussing how to finance this opportunity for her, while my life-changing scholarship became yesterday's news. To make matters worse, they decided to sell the used car that I had purchased with money from my part-time job at the local restaurant. They needed the cash to pay for Sophia's music camp. I had worked every weekend and summer to afford that car, saving every dollar from serving tables and cleaning dishes. Losing my transportation meant I would have to find other ways to get to my job, school activities, and college preparation meetings. While I was working 20 hours a week and taking advanced placement classes, Sophia was being chauffeured to her various activities in my mother's car. She never had to work for anything she wanted. Her music lessons, her clothes, her social activities were all funded without question. Meanwhile, I had to present a detailed budget and justification for every $10 I needed. Prom season highlighted these differences in the most embarrassing way possible. I asked for money to buy a dress for this once-in-a-lifetime event. After much deliberation, my parents gave me $100 with a lecture about being financially responsible. 2 weeks later, Sophia needed a dress for a friend's birthday party, and they spent $400 without hesitation. She came home with a designer dress, matching shoes, and professional hairstyling. College years brought a new level of abandonment that I had not anticipated. I moved 6 hours away to attend university on my scholarship, excited about the independence and opportunities ahead. My parents rarely called to check on my well-being or academic progress. The few times they contacted me were usually requests for me to send money home to help with family expenses, specifically Sophia's ongoing education costs. Sophia, who had mediocre grades throughout high school, was given full financial support for her college education. My parents paid her tuition, room, and board books, and provided her with a generous monthly allowance for personal expenses. They justified this by saying that my scholarship covered my costs, so their money should go to help Sophia. They failed to understand that my scholarship required maintaining a high grade point average, while working part-time to cover living expenses not included in the financial aid package. My college graduation was one of the most disappointing days of my life. I had earned summa cum laude honors, graduating at the top of my class with a double major in business and psychology. This achievement represented 4 years of incredible dedication, including working multiple jobs while maintaining perfect grades. My parents did not attend the ceremony because Sophia had a piano recital that same weekend. They claimed her performance was more important because it represented years of investment in her musical education. I sat alone in the graduation auditorium, watching other families celebrate their children's achievements with flowers, photographs, and proud tears. I took selfies with my diploma, trying to capture the moment for myself, since no one else cared enough to witness it. When I sent the graduation photos to my family, my mother responded with a brief congratulations, followed immediately by a request for me to help them purchase a new laptop for Sophia's upcoming sophomore year. My early career years followed the same pattern of being overlooked and undervalued. At 24, I had secured an excellent position with a growing marketing firm and was quickly promoted to team manager due to my work ethic and innovative ideas. When I called home to share this professional milestone, my father's response was, "Good for you, Maxine." Speaking of careers, Sophia is having some trouble with her boyfriend situation. Could you talk to her and give her some advice? Every family gathering became an exercise in frustration. Extended relatives would ask about Sophia, first inquiring about her music career, her relationships, and her future plans. Questions about my life were secondary and superficial. How's work? When are you getting married? Are you saving money? I was reduced to basic life functions, while Sophia remained the star of every conversation. The expectation that I should always be available to help Sophia with her problems became increasingly burdensome. Whenever she faced any difficulty, whether personal or professional, I was expected to drop everything and provide support. The reasoning was always the same: you're the older sister, you should set a good example and be there for family. This obligation was never reciprocal. When I faced challenges or needed emotional support, I was expected to handle things independently. I began to limit my contact with my family, calling less frequently and visiting only for major holidays. This reduction in communication was met with guilt trips and accusations of selfishness. My mother would say things like, "Family should stick together," and "We raised you to care about your sister." They failed to recognize that I had been caring for everyone else's needs, while my own were consistently ignored. At 27, I met David, an engineer who was kind, intelligent, and genuinely interested in my thoughts and experiences. Our relationship was refreshingly different from my family dynamics. He listened when I spoke, celebrated my achievements, and treated me as an equal partner. For the first time in my life, I experienced what it felt like to be someone's priority. When David and I decided to get engaged after 18 months of dating, I was excited to share our happiness with my family. I called my parents to announce our engagement, expecting some level of enthusiasm or support. Their reaction was disappointingly lukewarm. My mother said, "I hope you will be happy together, dear. What kind of budget are you thinking for the wedding?" When I explained that David and I planned to pay for our own wedding ceremony, my parents seemed relieved rather than proud. My father actually said, "That's wonderful. Now the money we have been saving can go toward helping Sophia open her music studio." Once again, my major life event was immediately converted into an opportunity to benefit my sister. Sophia, who was 25 and still living at home without steady employment, had been talking about opening a private music instruction studio. She taught piano lessons part-time, but had never demonstrated the business skills or financial responsibility necessary for entrepreneurship. Nevertheless, my parents were eager to fund this venture with the money they had supposedly been saving for my wedding. Wedding planning became a solo project as my family showed minimal interest in participating. I researched venues, interviewed caterers, selected flowers, and coordinated with photographers entirely on my own. David's family, in contrast, was actively involved and excited about welcoming me into their family. The difference in support was striking and painful. 2 weeks before my wedding date, Sophia dropped a bombshell that would change everything. She announced that she was engaged to Jake, a struggling musician she had been dating for only 3 months. Jake had no steady income, no clear career plans, and spent most of his time writing songs that he hoped would eventually make him famous. Despite the obvious red flags in this relationship, my parents immediately shifted all their attention to Sophia's engagement. The excitement they showed for Sophia's engagement far exceeded any enthusiasm they had demonstrated for mine. Within hours of her announcement, my mother was making lists of potential wedding venues and discussing dress shopping trips. The woman who had shown minimal interest in my wedding planning was suddenly energized about creating a perfect celebration for Sophia. The most shocking moment came during a family dinner when my parents suggested that I postpone my wedding to allow Sophia to get married first. My mother presented this idea as though it were perfectly reasonable, saying, "Maxine, what do you think about pushing your wedding back a few months? Sophia is younger, so it would be more traditional for her to have a spring wedding. Plus, it would give us time to plan something really special for her." I sat in stunned silence as my father nodded in agreement. "It makes sense, honey. You have had time to plan your wedding, and it's a simple ceremony anyway. Sophia's wedding could be the big family celebration we have always dreamed about." They were asking me to sacrifice my wedding date, the day I had been planning for months, so that my sister could have her moment in the spotlight first. When I refused to change my wedding date, explaining that all arrangements had been finalized and guests had made travel plans, my parents became defensive and accusatory. My mother said, "You have always been selfish, Maxine. Why can't you sacrifice something for your sister just once?" This statement revealed how completely they had rewritten our family history. In their minds, I was the selfish one, despite decades of being overlooked and undervalued. That night, I made a decision that had been building inside me for years. I was tired of being invisible, tired of my achievements being diminished, and tired of being expected to sacrifice for a sister who had never had to sacrifice anything. I began planning something that would finally force my family to confront their behavior and its impact on my life. I reached out to extended family members, family friends, and longtime acquaintances who would be attending my wedding. Through these conversations, I discovered that I was not alone in recognizing the unfair treatment I had received. My maternal grandmother had noticed the favoritism for years, but felt powerless to address it without causing family conflict. My Aunt Linda and Uncle Mark had discussed their concerns privately, but never felt it was their place to intervene. These conversations revealed that the discrimination I had experienced was obvious to outside observers. People had watched my accomplishments be ignored, while Sophia's minor achievements were celebrated. They had witnessed the different standards applied to our behavior, the unequal distribution of resources, and the emotional neglect I had endured. Learning that others had seen what I experienced validated my feelings and strengthened my resolve. My wedding day arrived with all the beauty and joy I had imagined. I felt stunning in my dress, confident in my decision to marry David, and ready to begin this new chapter of my life. My family arrived late to the ceremony because they had spent the morning helping Sophia shop for her engagement party outfit. Even on my wedding day, I remained secondary to her needs. The ceremony itself was perfect. David and I exchanged vows surrounded by friends and loved ones who genuinely cared about our happiness. His family welcomed me with tears of joy and heartfelt embraces. The contrast between their warmth and my family's distracted presence was impossible to ignore, but I was determined not to let their behavior diminish my special day. During the reception, as guests were enjoying dinner and conversation, I stood up to give a speech. Wedding speeches typically include thanks to family members and expressions of gratitude for love and support. My speech would be different. I had decided that my wedding gift to myself would be freedom from the toxic family dynamics that had shaped my entire life. I began by thanking David and his family for their love and acceptance. Then I turned to address my parents and sister directly. For 28 years I have waited for my family to really see me as more than just Sophia's older sister. I have achieved academic honors, built a successful career, and tried to be the daughter you could be proud of. Today I want to share with all of you what that journey has really been like. I proceeded to recount specific examples of the different treatment Sophia and I had received throughout our lives. I talked about the birthday parties, the Christmas presents, the college support, and the recent suggestion that I postpone my wedding for her convenience. I explained how my achievements had been minimized while her smallest accomplishments were celebrated. I described the loneliness of graduating summa cum laude with no family present to witness the moment. The room fell silent as I continued. Many of our extended family members and guests had no idea about the extent of the favoritism I had experienced. My grandmother began crying as she realized how deeply the discrimination had affected me. Other relatives looked shocked and uncomfortable as they processed this information. My parents sat frozen, their faces showing a mixture of shock, embarrassment, and denial. They had never been confronted publicly about their behavior, and the exposure of their favoritism in front of their friends and extended family was clearly devastating. Sophia looked confused and defensive, finally beginning to understand that she had benefited from treatment that had come at my expense. I concluded my speech by saying, "This is not about revenge or hurting anyone. This is about finally being honest about our family dynamics and setting boundaries for my future. I love you all, but I will no longer accept being treated as less important than Sophia. If you want me in your lives, it needs to be as an equal member of this family." The immediate aftermath was chaos. Some family members approached me with apologies and support. Others defended my parents, claiming that every family has different dynamics. My parents were defensive, initially insisting that they had treated both daughters equally. However, Uncle Mark spoke up saying, "No, you did not treat them equally. I have watched this inequality for years, and it needed to be addressed." The weeks following my wedding were difficult but liberating. David and I went on our honeymoon with no contact from my immediate family for 3 months. During this time, I experienced peace that I had never known. I was not waiting for phone calls that never came, not hoping for recognition that would never arrive, and not feeling guilty about my own success. Gradually, my parents began to reach out with tentative apologies and requests to talk. Family therapy sessions were arranged, and slowly honest conversations began to happen. My mother admitted that she had always worried more about Sophia because she seemed more fragile and needy. My father acknowledged that he had taken my strength and independence for granted, assuming I did not need the same level of support and attention. Sophia eventually reached out to apologize, admitting that she had been spoiled and had never truly appreciated the advantages she had received. She began working toward financial independence and started acknowledging my accomplishments in ways she never had before. While our relationship required rebuilding, it was based on honesty for the first time in our lives. Sometimes the greatest gift you can give yourself is the courage to stand up for your own worth. I spent 28 years waiting for my parents to see me really see me. That wedding day, I realized I did not need their validation anymore. I had built my own life, found my own love, created my own value. The confrontation was not about hurting them. It was about finally freeing myself from a lifetime of feeling invisible. Today, 5 years later, my family treats me with respect. But more importantly, I learned that you teach people how to treat you. Sometimes it takes one brave moment to change everything. Have you ever felt invisible in your own family? How did you handle favoritism or unfair treatment? Share your experiences in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please like this video and subscribe for more real-life stories about overcoming family challenges. Share this with someone who might need to hear that their worth is not determined by how others treat them. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember that you deserve to be seen, valued, and respected. Wishing you all the courage to stand up for yourselves when it matters most.